Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 players who will win you your fantasy football league in 2024, talking about 5 league winners that I love right now based upon where they're getting drafted, and I believe they are going to help you take home that fantasy football championship at the end of the season. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask that if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying it, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure you leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you would like to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into 5 players who will win you your fantasy league in 2024. We begin with my first league winner, and that is Puka Nacua, wide receiver of the Los Angeles Rams, current underdog ADP wide receiver 6 at pick 9.3. I do think, though, in a lot of redraft leagues, you are going to be able to get Puka Nacua inside of the early second round, depending on how running back heavy your draft room ends up being. Obviously, if it's a little bit more wide receiver heavy, like underdog drafts, then Puka might not fall into the second round, but I do think in a lot of your guys' drafts, Puka Nacua will be able to be selected inside of the second round. So Puka Nacua, as a rookie, was straight up dominant, 50 Shades of Grey style last season for the LA Rams. He said, "Cooper Kupp, move over to the cuck chair, baby, because it is Puka Nacua season." Wide receiver 4 in PPR and wide receiver 6 in PPR points per game. If you picked this guy at the end of your fantasy football draft last year, or if you picked him up off the waiver wire, this man was a league winner for you. Wide receiver 4 in PPR, wide receiver 6 in PPR points per game. 17 games played, 159 targets, 9.4 per game, number 7 at wide receiver. 105 receptions, 6.2 per game, number 8, 1,486 receiving yards, 87.4 per game, number 4, and 6 total touchdowns, 27th at wide receiver. So he was top 8 in targets, receptions, and receiving yards, and then he only scored 6 touchdowns, and I say only because that ranks 27th, whereas all of his other stats were inside of the top 8. He was 6th in yards per route run. He was 9th in yards per team pass attempt, 26th in dominator rating, and 33rd at wide receiver in target accuracy. Now, I do believe that Cooper Kupp isn't fully washed up, right? Cooper Kupp isn't over the mountain, and he's not some trash wide receiver. But at this point, to me, it is very evident that Puka Nacua is going to be the number 1 option on this LA Rams team. And while a lot of people are kind of just forgetting about Matthew Stafford, it doesn't really seem like anyone's talking about Matthew Stafford, right? In your normal 1 quarterback draft, more than likely, Matthew Stafford won't even get drafted, right? Matthew Stafford is almost an afterthought at this point in his career. Now, I understand that Matthew Stafford is no longer the Matthew Stafford that was on the Detroit Lions. He's no longer the Matthew Stafford that hoisted the Lombardi Trophy up against the Bengals, that had a fantastic game in the Super Bowl. I get that some might say that he is a little bit over the hump, right? He is not that same guy, and I do agree. I don't think Matthew Stafford is as good as he was just a couple of years ago. But for Puka Nacua to be successful, Matthew Stafford doesn't need to be the Matthew Stafford that lifted the Lombardi Trophy. Matthew Stafford doesn't need to be a top 10, top 12 quarterback in the NFL. As long as Matthew Stafford is just decent, as long as Matthew Stafford is just average, Puka Nacua, based upon sheer volume, is going to be very valuable for fantasy football. He's coming off the board as the wide receiver 6, and it should be a shock to absolutely nobody if Puka Nacua finishes inside of the top 3. When you average almost 10 fucking targets per game, you are going to be successful, especially when you are as good as Puka Nacua is. You remember that game up against the Detroit Lions in the playoffs? While they did end up losing that game, the Jared Goff revenge game, the Matthew Stafford revenge game, a double revenge game, Puka Nacua went nuclear. And I think that this season, if Puka ends up scoring 8, 10 touchdowns, he might mess around and be the wide receiver 1. I think people need to continue to bang the drum aggressively like a drummer boy. Shout out to Eminem. I think Puka Nacua should be a first-round pick, and I think Puka Nacua might end up being the wide receiver #1 in fantasy football. I love Puka Nacua this season. And again, while Matthew Stafford isn't the same as he used to be, you don't need the best quarterback back there when you got Puka Nacua to throw the rock to. At number 2, we got Josh Jacobs, running back of the Green Bay Packers, current underdog ADP, running back 10 at pick number 38, running back 28 last year in Viva Las Vegas in PPR, and the running back 18 in PPR points per game. He played the first 13 games of the season and then missed the end of the season with a quad strain. 233 carries, 17.9 per game, number 11, 805 rushing yards, 61.9 per game, 24th at running back, 54 targets, 19th, 37 receptions, 24th, 296 receiving yards, 19th, and 6 total touchdowns, 24th. Now, despite the fact that Josh Jacobs averaged the most defenders in the box in the National Football League last year at the running back position, they loaded that box up. 7.2 defenders in the box, first at running back, and still he ranked 7th in dominator rating, 30.2% dominator rating. This is a Green Bay Packers offense that has all of the firepower, right? They've got every single weapon inside of the fucking mystery box. They've got the Gatling gun. They've got the Thunder gun, the Ray gun. They've got everything, right? This is a Green Bay Packers offense that is going to be ferocious. This is a Green Bay Packers offense that is going to be taking a dump on the metaphorical chest of their opponents all season long. Josh Jacobs, not 5 years ago, just a couple of years ago, was one of the best running backs in the NFL on a not-so-hot Las Vegas Raiders team. We have seen under Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, running backs named Aaron Jones be, or I guess a running back named Aaron Jones be uber successful. I believe that in Green Bay is a perfect spot for Josh Jacobs. There is not that much competition behind him, right? I understand they drafted Marshawn. They still have Quadzilla, A.J. Dillon, but neither of those guys scare me. Is Josh Jacobs going to be getting 100% of the carries? Of course not. Really, no running back is getting 100% of the carries, right? There's going to be guys working behind him. But in a offense that's going to be scoring as many points, they're going to be dropping points down like Salt Bay, okay? I really do think that Josh Jacobs' upside in this offense is immense. Coming off the board as the running back 10, I wouldn't be shocked at all if he was a top 3 back, if he was the running back 1 at the end of the season. We know that Josh Jacobs has the skills to pay the bills. We're going to see what happens here in Green Bay. Again, I think Jordan Love Me Tender, Love Me Sweet is a fantastic quarterback. I think this is going to be a team that's up late in games, able to run the rock gently down the stream. And while Josh Jacobs isn't Christian McCaffrey, he's not Austin Eckler, right? A guy that you would think as a prototypical pass-catching running back. He's not necessarily that, but he could get 70 targets, and it wouldn't be all that crazy. So Josh Jacobs in Green Bay, I think we might see a resurgence here, and I love where he's going right now in draft. So if you load up on wide receiver early, and you're able to get Josh Jacobs in the 3rd or 4th round, then I'm going to be all over that. Next up, we move to the 3rd player that's going to be winning you your fantasy football leagues, and that is Easy Evan Engram, tight end of the Jacksonville Jaguars, underdog ADP, tight end 8 at pick 76.2. Now, despite the fact that Evan Engram was the tight end 2 in PPR last season, despite the fact that he was the tight end foe in PPR points per game, tied with Mark Andrews, despite the fact that he played in all 17 games, had 143 targets, 8.4 per game. Number 1, 114 receptions, 6.7 per game. Also number 1, 963 receiving yards, almost 1,000 receiving yards, 56.6 per game. Number 3, 4 touchdowns, 12th, right? Despite the fact that 3 out of the 4 main stats we talk about, targets, receptions, receiving yards, he was top 3. Despite that fact, he is coming off the board as the tight end number 8. Now, I am someone that loves Kyle Pitts. I love Trey McBride. I love Dalton Kincaid. I love Sam Laporta. I love Travis Kelce. I'm like Taylor fucking Swift, okay? I get it. There are other tight ends to love. But if you miss out on those early guys that might be considered to be closer to the elite, the S tier at the tight end position, And if you are able to snag Evan Engram in the middle rounds, I think you are getting a guy that can finish top 5 pretty easily. That there's an argument to be made that he will finish top 3 like he did last season. Now, I know there is a lot to say about Trevor Lawrence, and I make jokes about Trevor Lawrence all the time, right? Trevor Lawrence is a guy that coming into the NFL, basically every single NFL draft analyst, Mel Kiper, all those guys were basically on their knees. They needed some knee pads because they were giving this guy the gawk 9,000 special. They were fondling his fucking balls, talking about how great Trevor Lawrence is. And to me, Trevor Lawrence has not lived up to that. To me, Trevor Lawrence hasn't been a bust, right? He hasn't completely failed. Mission failed. We'll get him next time, right? That's not it. But he hasn't lived up to those expectations. And a lot of people kind of don't really put the respect on the name of the Jaguars that I think the Jacksonville Jaguars deserve. Trevor Lawrence passing to Evan Engram, 4th in target accuracy, 9th in yards per route run, 5th in yards per team pass attempt, and 10th in true catch rate. If you remember back in New York with the Giants, Evan Engram was a guy that was dropping more balls than like a 7th grader in middle school, right? When your balls drop, you get what I'm saying, right? Evan Engram was just dropping everything. It was like the ball was lathered in fucking KY jelly getting thrown his way by Eli Manning, right? But now in Jacksonville, magically with Trevor Lawrence, he's got like honey on his hands like he's Winnie the fucking Pooh, and he's catching everything, okay? Evan Engram, to me, feels like a huge value at pick 76.2. Now, I've talked about how I really do like TJ Hawkinson late in drafts, but I also mentioned how while I love TJ Hawkinson, there is far from a guarantee that he plays to start off the year. There's a chance that he gets thrown on the PUP, the physically unable to participate like me after I drink a couple of whiskey sours and my cock don't work no more, right? Sorry, babe, it ain't working today, right? Evan Engram is a guy that in the middle rounds is very enticing. He's a lot, to me, like Jake Ferguson. Now, you do have to pay slightly more to get Evan Engram, but the thought process is very similar. These are guys that performed very well last season in pretty similar situations, probably going to succeed again. Now, I get the Jaguars added Gabe Davis. I get that they drafted Brian Thomas Jr., right? And I like Brian Thomas Jr. I'm not a Gabe Davis hater, but I still think that Evan Engram is going to be sucking in targets the same way that Angela White is sucking in cock, and that is as effective as it gets, baby. I think Evan Engram is going to have a great season yet again in 2024, and I love that price as the tight end number 8. Moving now to number 4, we got Viva Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Raiders. Running back Zamir White, underdog ADP running back 21. Can you do something for me? Pick 80.8. If you guys have enjoyed today's video, make sure that you hit that like button down below. Very nice, I like. And hit that subscribe button down below, whether you are new, or if you are new to the channel. If you're not new to the channel, hit the like button. And even if you are new to the channel, hit the like button. And let me know down below in the comment section, do you agree, do you disagree with these players? Nick, Zamir White can't be a league winner. I know you haven't even explained it yet, but you're an idiot. Or, oh man, I hate Josh Jacobs. I hate Puka. Or, wow, Nick, you're a genius. You're basically wicked smart. Like you're, that guy's name Matt Damon. Whatever his name is, you're wicked smart. And I know some people hate that voice, so I'm not gonna be Mickey Mouse for too long. So let's get into number 4, Zamir White. Running back 56 last year in PPR, 56 in PPR points per game. Again, coming off the board right now on Underdog Fantasy. Running back 21, pick 80.8. Shout out to Underdog Fantasy, my fellas and ladies over there. So 17 games played with 4 starts. 104 carries, 6.1 per game, 46th. He's 43rd in rushing yards, 61st in targets, 59th in receptions, 62nd in receiving yards. He scored 1 touchdown, right? Not a great season, but you have to put the season into context, right? For the start of the season, the first 14 weeks with the bye week included, he is behind Josh Jacobs. He's chilling on the bench, basically just fucking holding the Gatorade for him. And then Josh Jacobs gets hurt, and Zamir White takes over. He levels up as the lead back, and he really did level up, because while I was not the biggest fan of Zamir White, well, I figured maybe this is going to be a 1-2 punch, Amir Abdullah and Zamir White really took that stranglehold of the backfield. Zamir White was that guy. in 4 out of 5 of the games where he was the starter on a Raiders team that was bad, right? Now, I understand that they started winning once they fired Josh McDaniels, right? I get that things started to get better. I'm not trying to shit on their new head coach. I'm not trying to do that. But what I'm saying is this is a Raiders team on paper that is bad news bears. I know they absolutely thwarped. They absolutely skull-fucked the Chargers in prime time for everyone across the globe to see. But this Raiders team wasn't the best, right? Aiden O'Connell was the starting quarterback. And if you said Aiden O'Connell was the starting quarterback of the Raiders before the season, you would have said the McGregor. You would have said, who the fuck is that guy, right? You would have had no idea who that guy was. And frankly, I didn't have the best idea of who it was. All I knew was that he looked like Farva from Superbad, but the guy isn't that bad. But again, he's not Mahomes or something. He's not the answer there, right? There's a reason why they brought in Gardner Minshew. Now, maybe Aiden O'Connell ends up as the starter, but that says more about Gardner Minshew, but they did bring in Gardner Minshew, and they sent sexy Jimmy Packin. Jimmy Garoppolo got out of there. So 4 out of 5 starts. Back to the actual point here. We don't need to deviate too far from the point of the video. 4 out of 5 starts. He had over 100 all-purpose yards, averaging 3.2 targets per game. Now, this is another guy. I'd probably give the lean to Jacobs, right? I think Jacobs probably will average more targets in Green Bay than Zamir White will average in Viva Las Vegas. But I don't think it's by like a wide margin. I don't think that Zamir White is some garbage pass catcher. Again, they drafted another running back. They have other running backs behind Zamir White, but Dylan Lobb doesn't really scare me. Zamir White put up a great finish. He was a guy that might be considered a league winner last season, and I think he's going to do it back-to-back. Michael Jordan, 96-97 here, 2023-2024. Zamir White in Las Vegas. I think this is a team that's going to lean heavy on to the run, and I think that Zamir White is going to be successful yet again in Las Vegas. And the funniest thing about Zamir White is, if we saw something happen like Zamir White, right? 4 out of 5 games over 100 all-purpose yards, right? Averaging 3.2 targets per game, and then the main running back left 3-4 years ago, I'd be sitting here basically saying that Zamir White is worth a second-round pick. Zamir White is that guy. Zamir White is this. Zamir White is that. But now you don't have to do that. He's coming off the board to pick 80.8, right? He's not even a top 12 running back. He's not even close. He's 12 backwards, 21. So running back 21 off the board. I like me some Zamir White. Final guy to talk about here. We got the man who paints his nails, the man who cried to his mother after he lost a game. We're talking about Caleb Williams, quarterback of the Chicago Bears, underdog ADP, quarterback 11, pick 96 off the board. You flip that around, you get 69. Very nice. I like. So Caleb Williams, all those things that I just said are going to be reasons why people don't want to draft Caleb Williams, right? I'm not going to draft a quarterback that paints his nails, buddy. Okay? I get it. A little bit suspect. Okay? But at the end of the day, I get my fantasy points from what happens on the field. This is something we talk about a lot, right? Your fantasy players, you don't have to fucking love the guy, right? I don't have to be like, oh, wow, I agree with everything Caleb Williams does. You don't have to agree with anything that these players do. All that matters is that they score fucking points for fantasy football. And Chicago is a great spot for Caleb Williams. 12 games played at USC last season, 388 pass attempts for 266 completions with a 68.6 completion percentage, passing for 3,633 yards, 9.4 yards per pass attempt, and 30 touchdowns with just 5 interceptions. He also can run the ball. 97 rushes for 142 yards and 11 touchdowns in 2022, which is the year prior. At USC, he rushes for 384 yards and 10 touchdowns. Now, is Caleb Williams, I say this a lot, right, about quarterbacks that can kind of run. I say, oh, is this Lamar Jackson? Is this Kyler Murray? Is this Michael Vick? No, it's not. But if Caleb Williams rushes a couple times a game, and he has the ability to sneak the ball into the end zone, get a couple extra points every game with the upside of maybe scoring a rushing touchdown, that's great. We know rushing quarterbacks are the Konami code, which I think sounds fucking stupid. The Konami code quarterback, the GTA San Andreas cheat code quarterback, right? Caleb Williams doesn't need to rush a crazy amount to be good, right? He's on the Bears. The receivers are DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, and Keenan Allen. try to think of a quarterback that has landed in a better spot recently than with, or I guess technically the Bears isn't the best spot because maybe the Bears are just cursed, right? But in terms of the players around him, right? They've got an O-line that, in my opinion, is top half of the NFL. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, guarantee they're going to be a top 10 unit, right? Top half. 16 out of 32, top 16, right? They've got a wide receiver core, 3 receivers. Again, Keenan Allen, I don't really love him this year for fantasy, but he's still a solid receiver. DJ Moore, my opinion, top 12 receiver in the NFL. Rome Odunze, promising rookie, drafted very early in the 2024 NFL draft. Tight end, they got Cole Kmet, who is serviceable, solid, and if something was to happen to Cole Kmet, knock on wood, or maybe Cole Kmet's not in for the play, he needs a breather on the sideline, Gerald Everett is playing. Pretty solid. Running backs. They got DeAndre Swift. I love shitting on DeAndre Swift, but he's good. Like, he can catch some passes. Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert. Okay? So this is a very solid spot for Caleb Williams. A solid offensive line. One of the best, if not the best, wide receiver trios, wide receiver threesome in the National Football League. Middle of the road tight end that I would argue is pretty solid. Maybe wasn't dealt the best hand with Justin Fields' passing prowess. DeAndre Swift is okay, but again, this is very solid, right? When do you get a quarterback that gets drafted number 1 overall and the weapons around him are this good? You want to know why that doesn't normally happen? Because normally the team that is dead last in the NFL sucks. Right? The year prior, that's how you get the number 1 overall pick, unless you get to swindle the Carolina Panthers and get the first pick this year with Caleb Williams. So Caleb Williams, I really like this spot in Chicago for him. I don't think he's going to come off the board as quarterback 11 in a lot of leagues. I think a lot of people are like, for one, I know for a fact, the more casual fantasy fan, I can't draft a rookie quarterback. That's what they're going to think. They're also going to think, this guy is a little fruity. He paints his nails. I can't draft him. That's what they're going to think. So Caleb Williams, let the haters be a little bit mad at your pink phone case. And I like him. Quarterback 11, pick 96.9 off the board right now. I think Caleb Williams has that league-winning upside, and if he starts running, and I just kept running, Forrest Gump style, and oh man, this guy might be top 5. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying today's video, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, leave a like on today's video. Very nice. I've done the Borat voice too many times. That wasn't even a good one. So I do appreciate you guys all so much. We've been seeing a lot of subscriber growth recently. We've been seeing a lot of subscriber growth recently. So I really do appreciate that. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. I love you guys from deep down in the bottom of my heart. My goal this season is 50,000 subscribers. Is it going to happen? Probably not. But you aim for the stars. You hit the moon, something like that. So I love you guys. Have a great one. As always, good boy.